Here we go. Democratic politics is impacting brand India. The toss has been won by Hindu College. So if I can introduce our first speaker today, Mr. Subramanian Swamy. Now, Mr. Swamy is an Indian politician, academic, economist, presently the President of the Janata Party of India. Dr. Manmohan Singh had recently stated that Dr. Swamy was the first to envisage and articulate the need for reforms in India. He has been in the news almost every day and requires no further introduction. Please welcome Dr. Subramanian Swamy. Over to you, sir.
Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, brand India is what makes India attractive as a foreign investment destination. It is also what demonstrates India's ability. We have therefore, because of brand India, inflow of foreign direct investments and other investments, and outflow of where we have performed, such as software. The bottom line is that India attracts foreigners to invest in India because they can make more profit here, largely because of our skilled and unskilled labor, which is not only good but the cheapest in the world. While they are able to bring their capital at very low interest rates which obtain in their countries. It is therefore quite clear that when brand India attracts foreigners to India, there is a lack of a level playing field, and it is the duty of democratic politics to ensure that we are not exploited in this branding that takes place. It is the duty of ensuring level playing field that the democratic politics plays. Thus, democratic politics correctly prevented FDI in retail because Walmart, obtaining capital at 2 to 4% interest rate in their country, in the United States, wanted to enter retail market with no new know-how, and therefore it led to unfair competition because Indian traders had to obtain capital at 12 to 18%. Moreover, foreign countries of the West particularly do not allow free access to our labor, which is not only skilled but the cheapest, and also to agricultural exports, for which we have been fighting in the Doha rounds. This is also brand India, our capacity to export our labor. We have today what is called as the demographic dividend, which 30 years ago we called as the population problem. Today, democratic politics is working for a quid pro quo. Hence, the democratic politics must impact brand India, must ensure that the contours of brand India are such that we ensure that the competition that takes place as a consequence is on a level playing field. We have advantage in labor, and those who want to come to this country have an advantage in capital. And the competition should be fair. And it is this, therefore, why we think that democratic politics must impact brand India. And it is this, for this reason, that some of the decisions which are taken through democratic politics may not be acceptable to the ideologically committed, but certainly something which in the national interest has to be done. So therefore, I support the motion that democratic politics impacts brand India. Thank you.
I must congratulate you for setting the stage for keeping well in time. Thank you. We will now have two interjections where you will be given a minute each to respond. So over to the other side. Questions? Two questions. Mr. Swamy.
If I might ask the very first one, if the whole point of this debate is to ensure that democratic politics provides a level playing field between Indian entrepreneurs and foreigners who come into India, shouldn't democratic politics in India be far more concerned with providing a level playing field to different classes of Indians? And how can there be a level playing field for different classes of Indians when we are just informed that 20 years of economic reforms and allowing foreigners to come in has resulted in a doubling of inequality in Indian society? That's my question.
You want me to answer from here? You have a mic. I have a mic, yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, it's the question of what's happening within the country is something which only marginally or indirectly affects branding of India. The branding of India takes place when we demonstrate to the world why we are an attractive destination. And if we feel that those in power are not protecting the national interests of the country or the level playing field, it is only through democratic politics that has to be done. I can understand the questioner's problem because he's associated with the emergency and he's associated with all that politics, where democratic politics has been looked down upon, and now Facebook and Twitters are also in a lot of trouble, and consequently criticism, exposure, transparency is something a bit alien to them. The question therefore is, what is the responsibility of democratic politics? It is to ensure that there is fair play and level playing field.
You have a second interjection?
Second interjection, yeah.
Well, I mean, the opening speaker essentially confined the entire issue of democratic politics to the resisting of FDI in retail. Surely one would have a concept of Brand India that goes beyond any one issue. And the question to you, therefore, is, are you not aware of the other ways in which democratic politics... The mic is not working? Is this better? All right. Well, the opening speaker confined his definition of Brand India to what makes India an attractive investment destination, confined his discussion of democratic politics to the resistance to FDI in retail. And my question to him is, isn't there more to Brand India than merely the attraction of investment? And isn't there more to democratic politics than any one issue? After all, even the saga of FDI in retail hasn't yet played itself out. Democratic politics is not an event, it's a process. And the process is ongoing over a period of time. There might still be a different outcome in months to come.
Well, perhaps my brevity might have derailed you a bit. But the fact of the matter is that I spoke about the branding of India should ensure that we get free access to our labor, just as we are expected to give free access to capital, that our labor is able to go abroad unfettered. So far, all discussions in the World WTO, the question of free movement of labor has been banned as a subject, and it has been held to be something which is contrary to immigration. Similarly, I said about agricultural exports, where Doha rounds this goes on and on. We are the cheapest producer of agricultural products in the world, but we are unable to export because of the barriers that have been erected. The same very people don't want barriers to be erected in India against foreign direct investment, even where we don't need it. So consequently, I have made a complete case, but perhaps I made it very briefly.
Okay. So now we go to speaker number 3 from St. Stephen's, Shashi Tharoor. Now, Shashi is an author, United Nations peacekeeper, refugee worker, human rights activist, a former Minister of State for External Affairs, and now an elected member of the Indian Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram constituency in Kerala. He is an award-winning author of 12 books, including the great Indian novel. In college, he founded the Quiz Club, revived the Woodhouse Society, and was elected president of the Union.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, distinguished judges, members of the House. Being the sixth speaker after this very rich and lively debate makes me feel rather like Elizabeth Taylor's sixth husband. I kind of know what's expected of me, but I'm not sure how to do it very differently. But I'll try. I'll try. I mean, I must say that hearing people like Deepak Verma and Hardeep Puri essentially say this motion can be both positive and negative reminded me of a line I once heard at Delhi University. We're trying here to be logical, not tautological. So, but very simply, to reduce the debate to its essentials. What is a brand? It's obviously, as the marketing people tell us, a symbol that embodies all the key information about a product or a service. So when a brand is mentioned, it carries with it a whole series of associations in people's minds and expectations of how the brand will perform. But ultimately, the only real guarantee of a brand's worth is the actual performance of the product or the service that it stands for. If the brand delivers what it promises, it becomes a great asset in itself. So what's brand India? We've heard lots of definitions of it. A country isn't a soft drink or a cigarette, but its name can conjure up certain associations. That's why our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, insisted on holding on to the name India in the Constitution in the face of nativist reassertions for Bharat, right? Because he felt that there was a brand that had been developed, a fabled land, India, the jewel in the crown of the British Raj, that he wanted to hold on to, even if he didn't use the word brand. Now, that then got transformed into the brand of Mahatma Gandhi, as we've been reminded. It then got tarnished, perhaps, by associations with poverty and various setbacks. It's now been revived again. And we've heard about the Davos slogan, fastest growing free market democracy. We've heard of the Stephanian Amitabh Khan slogan, incredible India. All of this summarizes various aspects of what we want people to think of when they hear the word India. I think a fundamental part of this is the unparalleled diversity of India, the geographical diversity, the ethnic, religious, linguistic diversity, and this range of people, even though they come from colleges on both sides of a certain road, living side by side in relative harmony. That is part of Brand India. And Brand India's importance lies, frankly, in the fact that India's claims to any importance in the world of the 21st century lie in those aspects and products of our society and culture that are attractive to people elsewhere in the world. So that when we speak of soft power, as one speaker has already done, it's a right thing to do because we know that hard power can carry the odium of global public disapproval, whereas in the information era, our brand strength is indeed our soft power. That today's world is not about who has the bigger army. It's not the bigger army that wins. It's the country that tells the better story that wins. And what we've seen in the stories, even heard from the wrong side of the motion, have been stories that have strengthened the whole notion of what India is all about. A society with a free press, a thriving mass media. India can tell stories about itself that, frankly, attract just as we're being ourselves. And democratic politics is a fundamental part of that story. Even Anna Hazare, though he wasn't mentioned by name, this non-violent protest that was alluded to is part of the story of democratic politics in India and part of India being the land where public opinion is expressed in all sorts of ways and heeded in our system. See, Brand India is created partly by the government and partly despite the government, partly by deliberate action, partly by accident. So it's not just what we can consciously portray that's Brand India. It's rather how others see what we are, who we are as a nation. In fact, democratic politics is integral to that. I was traveling in the Arab world in 2004 when our then general election results gave us a party winning the election, headed by a woman of Catholic background and Italian descent, who then made way for a Sikh gentleman to be sworn in by a Muslim president in a country 81% Hindu. And the astonishment and admiration of the Arabs I spoke to demonstrated to me that democratic politics is so fundamentally a part of Brand India that we can't speak of it impacting it as if it's an external or extraneous element. In fact, democratic politics can't affect Brand India, can't impact Brand India because it is part of Brand India. Undemocratic politics can affect Brand India. You have riots in Gujarat, or you have a member of the other side writing an article in the newspapers threatening to disenfranchise all of India's Muslims. That kind of undemocratic politics can affect Brand India. But ultimately, whatever happens in our politics, even if it's sometimes dysfunctional, the fact is the strength of Brand India remains, that we understand that you can overcome differences of caste, creed, color, culture, cuisine, custom, costume, conviction, and still rally around a consensus in our democratic politics. And that's the consensus that in a diverse democracy like ours, you don't really need to agree all the time, so long as you agree on the ground rules of how you will disagree. That is the strength of Brand India. This debate is a reflection of that strength. And therefore, I submit to you, you cannot have an extraneous element as democratic politics. It is central to what Brand India is all about, and therefore it does not impact Brand India. Thank you.
You seem to be more familiar with the UN Charter than the Indian Constitution. Because the Indian Constitution, the first line says, India, that is Bharat.
So both are there.
So don't say that Jawaharlal Nehru adopted India and rejected Bharat.
I didn't say that.
You said that because...
I said he held on to the term India.
Secondly, I don't know whether you have the permission to state the religion of your leader, because I know one ambassador who's present here who got into a lot of trouble for stating the religion.
All right, first on the question.
Now I come to my question.
All right.
This is only to point out that Stephanians are generally split personality. They do not know whether they belong to this country or still part of the British Empire. Now, question is, you spoke eloquently about the branding of India, but you did not explain whether democratic politics impacts or doesn't impact. Could you tell us in one word, yes or no?
The interjection was a rather lengthy one. Points. First, as far as the question of what Nehruji wanted, the proposal in the Constituent Assembly was just to call India Bharat. He insisted that it should be India that is Bharat because he wanted to hold on to the brand of India. So both terms are used in the Constitution, and I'm indeed familiar with the Constituent Assembly debates from which this emerged. On the question of anyone's religion, I didn't speak of anyone's religion, I said of a Catholic background and Italian descent. A person's background, I don't think, can be contested. Third, on your specific, your final query, which was yes or no to, whether yes. My entire point is that you cannot have a part of something impacting the whole. It's like saying that your hand impacts your body. It's a part of your body. Democratic politics is a part of Brand India. It cannot impact Brand India any more than your hand can impact your face. Or perhaps that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
The proposition before this House is, this House believes democratic politics impacts Brand India. Do you think that by making out a case that Brand India impacts democratic politics, you can get out of the issue of establishing, again a question, yes or no?
I've made it amply clear that because indeed Brand India has as an integral part of it the entire practice of democratic politics in our country, that to speak of democratic politics in the motion as if it is something extraneous like a meteorite impacting the earth, democratic politics impacting Brand India, makes no sense as a proposition.